Hello, Falco. This is an accurate representation for sure. My wife asked me, because she was out of town this weekend when she got back in, she said, "What happened?" I said, "You can watch the podcast and find out." Yo, Icy King, Riley Rooster. Twitter being hashtag Twitter. Tux. Well, Falco, I don't know what to tell you. Does your wife even watch your streams to begin with? Mine watches mine. Hell, my wife's my mod. Oh, that's right. That's right. Comes into the stream chat. I'll get your attention for sure. Fair enough. Gonna watch this as you edit your life away. The grind don't stop. I've already done all the editing I can do for the Popcast. Here's all the editing. And right now I got one shot. Just one take for everything that I want to say to be perfect. Maybe there'll be a future of the podcast where I don't do live episodes. And I just do like 10, 15-minute videos at a time. And I just become like, who's the guy that just wears the white shirt and has the long hair? Like, I might just become that version of Splatoon. I'd let it slip. And I'd be more than happy with it. I don't know who that is. I cannot confirm who that is. Speaking of mom spaghetti, we haven't had a mom spaghetti tournament in Loink in a while, have we? Just been... Sheesh. Yeah, you can link. Yeah, you can put anything in chat. If I'm pretty sure it'll allow it.
used to. But this week they are a different team. They have Varashi in, and we have Chara on that 96 scale, not something I'm as used to seeing.
And we have a player jump out of their toaster immediately. What the hell was that? Did you see that?
I
On
did.
the side of AC Tenchi. As soon as they hopped out, they said, I'm not waiting for little Judd to say go. I'm getting out of my toaster and we're going to fight. Okay. So, might be some little shenanigans going on in this lobby. But this is going to count as we see Rashi dancing on orange ink. Oh my gosh, here we go.
Okay, here we go again. There's a DC on the side of Last Resort.
On the side of Last Resort. And
Bro, Chara, you can't do that.
I wonder,
Chara,
though.
no.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are busy disconnecting from your tournament match, answering questions in the help desk even though you are not on the tournament staff, claiming to not know who your opponent is despite losing to them 2 weeks in a row now. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. That's, if you haven't seen the InkTV qualifier yet, there's your accurate representation. Whatever the hell that was pretty much sums that up. You can just skip the rest of this episode. Bye. We'll go raid somebody. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about it, I guess. Hold on. We'll get to it. Low Tide City registration has skyrocketed in the past 2 days. I'm not quite sure why. I know the main registration ends, I believe, tomorrow on the 11th. But you've seen a huge influx of players daily that are signing up for that tournament now and going. I don't really know what else to think about that. Some people are saying that Pro Chara recently did like a plug for it, and that caused a lot of people to get on board with playing in it. I don't know. I'm just pointing out, it seems like Low Tide City's getting a lot of people registered for it. I think if you're somebody who's not going to Low Tide City and you're looking forward to Riptide, I think this is a good thing to see, because Riptide probably, I couldn't imagine a scenario where Riptide is not going to do better than Low Tide City in a calendar year. Just the location in the Midwest is going to be always a really good draw for a lot of people, as opposed to Round Rock, Texas. But if Round Rock, Texas is doing this good, I'm really excited to see what Riptide's going to be, even though my wife and I will not be there because we're going to be at home with our own little inkling at that point. We'll be watching safely from our living room, though. But if you are planning on going to Low Tide City, you might as well register today so you don't have to worry about things later. $10 increase. Hey, that's half of a Nintendo Online subscription. That's a lot of money there. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the Popcast. We have here this week, believe it or not, this week is Low Ink Week. It snuck up on you. Now, it's the old question of, is Low Ink the third weekend of the month, or is it the next to last weekend of the month? The answer is yes, the vast majority of the months, but this is one of the handful of months this year where there are actually 5 weekends. And we already put on the calendar that it was going to be this upcoming weekend, and then Girls Duo Cup started putting in there the weekend after that. So it's like, oh, we should change. We're not going to come out of this looking like the good guys if we try to run over Girls Duo Cup. So we're sticking with this weekend. It's technically going to be the third weekend of the month. And so go ahead and sign up for it. We are going to do the Popcast preview episode of that on Friday. At what time specifically, I don't know. I am going to be involved in the InkTV stuff this Friday, I believe. And I don't want to obviously do this and that at the same exact time, so I'll let you know what time it's going to be. One of the topics we're going to talk about in the low ink preview episode is why the low ink skill cap is perfect, and it's not going to change. I'll go a lot more in depth as to why it's perfect and it's never going to change when we get to that, because that was a discussion last month, and I was like, you know what, instead of tweeting, it'd be a lot easier if I just held on to that, and then I get a free segment next time I talk about low ink. Podcasting is all about pacing yourself. Don't bury the lead. Just let things happen. You never want to go online for an hour and just talk about nonsense. No, hold on to your thoughts. Do it for the idiots in chat. Sign up for low ink, and make sure you do your splash tag thing. I haven't checked people's splash tags. I might do that tomorrow. Today we are going to be recapping Little Squid League number 29. Yes, the tournament that happened on Saturday. If you were curious what happened this past weekend, we're covering all of it here, including Little Squid League number 29. So we'll be getting right into that. But first, InkTV qualifier number 2 is now in the books, and the 8 teams have earned their spots. Oh my goodness. This is there's a lot to unpack here. there's a lot to go over. It was a tough tournament to navigate, I'm sure, if you were one of the TOs for this. However, if you're somebody that's in the business of podcasting and storytelling and explaining what all went on within this tournament, as I am, this is gold. This is a free episode of the podcast. I love what InkTV is doing, because I haven't had to actually think the last 3 episodes of the Popcast. I can just sit here and talk about what's going on with InkTV every single week. This is fantastic. So what do we got? Let's start with the ugly, then we'll go to the bad, and then we'll end on a good note. We'll finish with the good. So ugly, bad, and good in that order. What would you consider to be the ugly? Let's just get right into this. Disconnection issues absolutely plagued this event, and it became a major storyline, whether you want to talk about it or not. When you're commentating, you don't want to just sit there and reference DC issues over and over and over again, but when it happens so frequently, and when it happens in critical moments, you have no choice but to talk about it. And what critical moment do you guys want to talk about here? Because it was, I can't imagine another time where it's ever been this bad. It started off with me and Knox commentating on the Splatoon Tourney channel, as you just saw. Our first match of the day was Twice versus Chewits Mafia. And in game 1, Twice is curb stomping Chewits Mafia, and then 3 of their players disconnected in the final minute. 3! You're used to seeing like 1 person go, but 3 of the 4 players vanished all at the same exact time. That is really bizarre that would happen. Believe it or not, Chewits Mafia won that game in a 4v1 situation. There were a few more disconnects over the course of that set, but Twice ultimately went on to win because they were clearly the better team from what we were seeing on the screen. Penguin was dealing with disconnect issues at the worst possible time. They're about to get a monster 3-0 or a 3-1, I believe, is when they started disconnecting, win over Crush Soda, which would have been a fantastic win for their resume. They started disconnecting. Last Resort down to their last resort, get a big lead in game 3, then have the disconnect out of absolutely nowhere happen to them, and they move on. they made it interesting. They almost won their 3v4. Didn't work out into their favor. And of course, Full Send disconnected, brought in a sub, more disconnection issues, and all of a sudden you got a tournament without Robbie or Zero playing in it because they couldn't qualify out of the match. There were 4 qualifying matches that were played. 2 in winner side, 2 in loser side. Of those 4 matches, 3 of them had games end or be decided because of a disconnect. 3 of them. The Nightmare Full Send set, the Crush Soda Penguin set, and the Last Resort Penguin set. Penguin being involved in 2 of them, one of which where Penguin disconnected against Crush Soda, then they lost, and then Last Resort disconnected against them, and then they lost. It sucks. And I can't imagine another time, and I've been paying attention to competitive Splatoon since 2018, and maybe somebody has a great example in chat, I don't know, but I can't think of another time where disconnects were such a common theme for everybody from the beginning to the end of the tournament. Now, Low Inks have had DC issues before, and Low Inks have had, I think there was one set in February of last year, the one time we had 9 commentator Low Ink. A team won because the other team ran out of DC replays. They DC in a game 5, and that was it. The tournament ended on a DC. It sucks for everybody involved. It sucks for the players, obviously, because you don't want to lose that way. You don't want to win that way. It's very a bittersweet end. The Deep Fried Octolings won basically off of DCs at one point as well against Sirius. It sucks for the TOs because we don't want that to happen, and it's one of those things that's outside of our control. What TOs want to have complete control over their tournament and create the experience as best as they can as possible. TOs have no control, absolutely nothing they can do about disconnect issues. So it's frustrating for them, and it's beyond frustrating for the viewer because you get robbed of great moments, of those dramatic things, the reasons you're watching tournaments. Disconnects rob it from you. Unless it's some sort of scenario where the team that's now playing the 3v4 is like barely holding on for their life and just scrapping and battling to try to stay in it and almost winning. Then it becomes exciting. But when that team loses and it's like, man, that sucks. Because it sucks. Now, with all the disconnects that happened throughout the tournament, I'll argue this. Did anything actually change, though? If none of the disconnects happened, and those matches just played out the way you would assume they were to play, would anything be different? In the Twice to its Mafia set, Twice won anyways, despite the fact that they couldn't stay in the lobby half the time. The Penguin and Crush Soda thing is really interesting. Both teams ended up qualifying out of the tournament anyways. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the spots that they qualified out of would not have changed. Like one of them, if you won that set, you would have been the number 2 seed in one group in the league and versus the number 4 seed in a different group in the league. So it doesn't really change much for those 2 teams. It just changed like what group they ended up in, which I guess at that point, do you really care what group you're in? Everybody's a monster in this tournament anyways. And that just leaves one more set outside of the Last Resort versus Penguin set. I'm sorry. Last Resort probably wins that game 3, but do they pull off the reverse sweep and win game 4 and 5? You can't sit here and say yes or no because it didn't actually happen, but just by watching that set, you got the sense that Penguin doesn't win that game 3 naturally. They're going to find a way to win one of those other 2 games in advance because Penguin was just looking that good over the course of the weekend. But that just leaves one. Can I honestly sit here and say that if Full Send and Nightmare play that set without any DC issues, that Nightmare is still the team that escapes that set and becomes the team that qualifies into the league? That's hard to say. That's really hard to say. It's hard to say Nightmare wins that one. When you look at where the games were going before the disconnects happened. Now, you can also not at the same time say that Full Sin would have won those sets if they didn't DC, because you can't really pay attention to that because they didn't really play those sets. You can't just assume certain things are going to happen, and we're going to be talking about assumptions coming on a little bit later in this segment. But you can't make the full argument that either one of those teams would have advanced. You can't. It's hard to make that decision either side. We got robbed of an actual set there. What would have been a really fantastic set that we could have talked about, spent a whole segment talking about with how they finished last week into where they went into the second qualifier. So we all just kind of got robbed of a great moment right there. It's an incomplete set. But I'll say this, showing up is half the battle. And I've said that several times with DCs. If you're the team that shows up and you stay in the lobby in sets like that, that gives you the right to call yourself the winner. And it's as much, here's the thing I don't understand. With all the things that you could have pointed the finger to in that Full Sin Nightmare set, how could you have ever pointed a finger and blamed Nightmare for anything? Here's the situation they were put in. Their opponent DC'd, and Nightmare gentlemen to give them a replay. Their opponent DC'd again, so they subbed that player out, which Nightmare originally hesitated to gentlemen to doing, and then ultimately decided, yes, we will gentlemen to let you bring in a sub that you're not supposed to bring in. And then the other team kept DCing after that. How is that Nightmare's fault? How could you blame Nightmare for any of that? Is beyond me. And if you actually looked at it and you still think that Nightmare has some sort of has some sort of blame in any of that, I don't know what to tell you. I honestly don't know what to tell you. And you're probably not somebody who listens to this anyways. And yes, it got nasty on Twitter between those two teams. By select players on both sides, I should say. It's not the entire representation of both teams. But look, I'm 32. My wife is about 60% done creating human life. Like, I can't just sit here and talk about what I assume is high schoolers going after each other on Twitter. The one thing I'll say about the nonsense that was on Twitter, and I've said this many times before, some of you have a real problem where after a tournament set, whether you win or lose, you're just addicted to grabbing your phone and putting out your first initial thought, and you don't realize your first initial thoughts are usually cringe and horrible and bad. Some of you really need to consider not getting on Twitter for at least, give yourself like 5 minutes to just let everything sink in. I would argue wait till the next day before you tweet out something. But if we could just get everyone to just take 5 minutes after a set, that would be a huge jump up instead of just immediately pointing the finger everywhere except where the real problem is. Which I'm not a tech person to know what the real problem is, so we can all just blame Nintendo and get on with it. So that was the ugly. And by the way, it's the DC rules for this tournament were different from any other tournament, and nobody realized it, including the commentators. Knox and me got it wrong when we were talking about it. Walkie and Nine got it wrong when they were talking about it. We're all just so ingrained in our brains to think every tournament is a replay if you don't score 50 points or the timer doesn't go past 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But you just saw teams gentlemaning left and right throughout the day with that rule set in mind, which wasn't the actual rule set for the tournament. The tournament is no replays, period. You DC, tough luck, you're out. But if everybody's gentlemaning to the standard rule set, what's the point of having a rule that says you can't DC at all? Just the food for thought. That was something I just kind of noticed. But it also raises the point that Nobody read the rules for this tournament, myself included, some of the other commentators, and certainly all of the players. We can't just sit here and point the finger at EU for not reading the rules. Nobody read the rules. Case in point, just watch how many people ended a game when they weren't legally allowed to end a game when they thought. Some teams lost matches because they ended the game early, thought they were being nice to the other team. But that's the ugly. Let's talk about the bad. Even though information has been out about this league for a month, 2 months now, maybe probably longer than that, it wasn't until after the second qualifier that Europe realized what time the league games actually take place. Oh boy. If you're just now tuning in and you're wondering when this league that everyone's qualified for actually takes place, it's Thursday and Friday nights at a time zone catered toward North America. So if you're in Europe, you're playing technically the next day in the morning time for some of those sets. And everybody in Europe signed up for the qualifier leagues, and 4 European teams did qualify, only to now realize, we didn't really realize what we actually signed up for. So let's talk about that for a little bit, because that became another topic on Twitter afterwards. Now, if I was an EU player and I looked at the qualifier and saw what time that it was at, and saw that it was at a convenient time for me, I would totally have assumed that the league would be roughly the same exact time that'd be beneficial to me. I would have made that assumption. What you would not have seen me do, though, is to go on Twitter afterwards and complain about something that was my incorrect assumption. If I assume something that is incorrect for a month, is it their fault for not matching my assumption, or is it my fault for not truly understanding what I signed up for? I don't think it's fair to complain about it. If everyone complained a month ahead of time, like when the thing first came out and the first thing was dropped, and everyone would be like, why is the qualifier at EU friendly time if I have a qualifier for the league and then I got to play at 3 a.m. in the morning? Like, if people were bringing up that point then, that would be a good time to bring it up. And we do this all the time in Splatoon. We always complain about something way after the fact when we could have done something about it at the beginning when there was more vocalizing against it then. Yes, the rules are out there. And yes, I totally understand people assuming things, because I assume things all the time. But it doesn't mean it gives you an opportunity to be fair in your criticism when something could have been done about it. But let's not talk about the complaining. And let's not throw any shade at TOs either, instead of assume because of your incorrect assumption. That's always going to be a bad look. I didn't understand why people were doing that, and they rightfully got flamed for doing so. But let's take a look at the bigger picture here. Because as I'm starting to see more of this InkTV thing, as I'm starting to, I'm not like involved in this outside of being a commentator or analyst or whatever hat I'm wearing for the production thing. Well, I'm not involved in like the TOing aspect of this, but I am being like a fly on the wall. I'm just kind of absorbing all these things. I like being in these VCs with these well-established community leaders as they just kind of talk about things in their mindset through things. So I'm doing a lot of learning, and I'm starting to realize why something like Tassel that has been hinted at and flirted about and attempted to be resurrected to come back into the tournament scene has yet to do so since 2021. I'm starting to see how much effort it takes to create a league on this magnitude all the hurdles that you have to clear to pull off something like this. And last week I already talked about the insane production work that goes into making the tournament like this, how you need 16 plus people online ready to go just for the past 2 qualifiers alone. To pull off something like that is absolutely incredible. But one of the major hurdles that comes with doing a league like the InkTV or the Tassel League is, when are you actually going to do your league? If you want to do something that is perfect for both North America and Europe, you are really, really limiting yourself, because you only have one option: Saturday or Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's it. That's the only time slots that you could do a league that benefits both regions. There's nothing else you can do. If it's any sooner, you're going to lose California. If it's any later, you're going to lose all of Europe. So finding that perfect time slot that works out for everything is extremely difficult to do. And it might have been easier to do back when Tassel was operating back in the early 2020s. Can we call that decade a thing now? When there wasn't a whole lot in the scene that was going on now. But when you look at the community calendar, there's tournaments going on every single weekend right now. And if you want to maximize the viewership for your league, and you want to go up against things like Little Squid League and Squid Junction and Low Ink and Girls Duo Cup and 4v4 Sundays and Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer Cup, you're going to start not getting the things that you want out of the league as a TO. Already, 2 weekends have been taken up. 2 Saturdays have been taken up. If you want to do the actual league at those time slots, that's 6 straight Saturdays/Sundays that InkTV would just take from everybody. And they couldn't do that. You can't just have an organization be like, hey, IPL, Dapple Productions, MIT, you guys have been carrying the scene for the last 3 years while we've been dormant. We're going to come back. We're going to take a whole month from you guys, taking advantage of the scene you guys have built up, and then we'll give it back to you when we're done. They can't do that. And there was stuff like that going on before. You guys remember in 2021, I believe it was SAC season number 3, the opener for that season. What happened in the opener of that season? It was a 6 rounds of Swiss for the SAC tournament and a top cut that was single elimination. Every tournament lasted 1 day that season except for the opener. The opener was day 1, 6 rounds of Swiss. Day 2 was the single elimination top cut. They played top cut on day 2. It was so dumb. It was so annoying playing in that set because Xanadu was the best team at the end of day 1, and then they had to hit the brakes, come back out with a whole new team because their players couldn't play both weekends. They're the number 1 seed in top cut. They get smoked by day-old Sushi in round 1 of the Sunday stage, and they get eliminated because it's single elimination. Well, why didn't they just play the whole thing all in 1 day like every other SAC tournament they've done ever? It's because Tassel wanted to stream that day, and Tassel asked politely if SAC would break up their tournament longer so that they could stream one Saturday. That sucks, and, you know, credit for SAC to, you know, making the adjustment for that, but again, that hinders a bunch of other orgs that have been grinding out things into the scene for a while, that they got to take second fiddle because top level difference, I guess. I don't know. Little Squidly took a big L this past weekend. Now, we'll talk about that when we get to them as well. I didn't even realize that till this morning, looking at how InkTV's tournament affected Little Squidly. But something major kind of got affected because of that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So if that's what you got to do, though, if you want to get EU and NA in line, that's the only option that you have. So if you want to make those hurdles a lot easier and make it a lot less stressful for all the TOs, in which, by the way, we as TOs need to find ways consistently to make all this stuff less stressful for us, because what's the point of creating a tournament if we are going to get ourselves burned out for it? Proving Grounds, that's half of the reason why Proving Grounds is single elimination right now. You know why? Because half of the jackasses are eliminated in 30 minutes. It's perfect. Help desk is dead. We can just fall asleep through the tournament, wake up. Oh, cool. Sonder won, or Sonder got third place. Perfect. But if you just cater, instead of NA to EU, if you just cater to one region specifically, instead of just Saturday and Sunday that you have to work with at one specific time slot, you can now do your tournament whenever. Monday through Monday is now available for you to do your tournament. And that's exactly what InkTV did. Let's take Thursday and Friday, which the only thing they would run into during the league would be a Proving Grounds, but we're more than happy to move a Proving Grounds off of a Friday into a Saturday slot because there's nothing going on that Saturday anyways. It's perfect. It doesn't interrupt anything in the league, which I know is what InkTV was concerned about. They don't want to just interrupt what is already present in the league. So that's why Thursday and Friday works perfect for them, and it gives North America the perfect time slot they need. And on the flip side, instead of just saying Europe, you're banned, South America, you're banned, it's just hey, if you guys are available at this time, you are more than welcome to play in it. And I think that was the assumption when all the TOs saw these EU teams play up, and it was like, okay, they're willingly agreeing to play this late on a Thursday and Friday, even though it might not work out for them and they might not play at their best at that time. They understand by what they're signing up for. And then you start to realize, oh, wait, no, they don't understand what they signed up for. Oops. But by catering just to the NA, it makes things a lot easier for everybody in the scene as far as North America is concerned. Now, let's be blunt about this, because this sucks for Europe. It absolutely sucks for Europe. And Europe just now recently got a Nintendo tournament. Congratulations to you guys. The monkey paw curls, though, as you find out, your qualifier is now in 3 days and it's a LAN. Wait, what? What? You decide to just tell me that now? Yeah, have fun working with Nintendo. Hey, at least they're paying attention to you guys now, right? Right? But if we're being absolutely blunt about things, the vast majority of people that are creating these kinds of tournaments, they're coming from North America. And that's not to say that there aren't strong TOs and production folk coming from EU, because IPL and Dapple Productions are loaded with strong TO talent coming out of Europe. But none of them are stepping up to create a European InkTV style league, a high production league, bringing in 16 plus people, streaming across the entire scene, drawing in all the major teams without a prize pool. I'm pretty sure InkTV doesn't have a prize pool. Nothing's really happening on the EU side as far as creating something like that. So if it's not going to happen from the EU side, the only reason that Europe can get involved in something at a production level of InkTV, you're relying on NA to do that for you. Which, well, not saying you got to be grateful for that, but at the same time, if you're slamming the people that are trying to create something then and allowing you to play in it, does it really make them want to continue to try to make something for you in the future? That's my concern. Especially when you're annoyed because of incorrect assumptions. I would love to see Europe make their own little style of the NA thing. And for NA to play in it, they got to either stay home from school or flex the fact that they don't have a day job and playing it like that. But for now, it's just InkTV that's been the ones willing to step up to the plate to do it. And hopefully InkTV, somebody watching this in Europe, is inspired to create something that is favorable to Europe in particular. But as of where we stand right now, that is not going to be the case. Despite all of that, though, There is a reason everybody across the planet wants to play in the InkTV thing. And there's a reason why I believe the 4 teams that have qualified for Europe are still actually going to play. It's because this league is the best damn thing to happen to this scene since LANs came back after the pandemic. It is. I don't care about Nintendo's bullcrap. I don't care about a weekend major that gives out thousands of dollars without even giving any of that money back to their own organization so they can stand themselves. This league thing is driving so many conversations and narratives across this scene, and for all the people that aren't even playing in it. This is a really good thing that's going on here. Mainly because, and the reason every team wants to play in it is because of the stories that get told through this thing. Let's start talking about the good when we end this segment here. Nightmare, I'm sorry. I said you guys were not going to have a good tournament because you were not going to be able to fly under the radar this time around. I was wrong. There was more pressure on Nightmare in this tournament than there was last time, and they arguably played even better because of it. My goodness. Now, Nightmare did not get out of this tournament unscathed. I said that they were going to be hunted now, and I didn't think that the team that was going to give Nightmare the most trouble wasn't going to be a team that made top 16. Instead, it was a Rapid pickup that played them in the elimination stage, which I believe had Nightmare dead to rights, down 2-0, and Nightmare had to reverse sweep their way back into that one. By the way, Rapid, the players that make up Rapid, whatever pickups they do, or the actual team, when I talk about hunters versus the hunted, there is no better example of a hunter team than Rapid. They need to change their logo to Elmer Fudd because these guys literally could not give a damn who they're playing against, how much of an underdog they are, how much they're underseeded to somebody. Rapid really doesn't care. They just shut up and play the video game, and they've gotten a lot more upsets. And I don't talk about like in-depth weeklies enough, but if you look at all these weeklies Rapid is playing in, they're constantly exceeding expectations. And when you got a team like that versus a team like Nightmare that everybody and their mom is gunning for right now, do you think about it in that perspective, even though on paper Nightmare is supposed to blow Rapid out of the water? Hunter versus the hunted comes into play right there. Regardless, Nightmare was able to survive that, sweep Sonder, took a game off of Starburst. You realize Starburst lost their 20th and 21st game ever against the West in Splatoon 3 this weekend. Nightmare gets to say they took a game off of Starburst. That is a huge accomplishment. Put that in your Sindel bio. We beat them in a game. It should be good enough to get you into +4 or whatever the kids are doing nowadays. Nightmare benefits, and without this league, none of you care about Nightmare, myself included. Oh, they're just a former Div 1 team. They're better than Smoothie because they beat them whenever they play that. Nightmare, complete different team, all because of the InkTV League. How about Penguin? Nobody should have seen Penguin doing what they did yesterday or 2 days ago. They got in Div X last season, and they finished like middle of the pack. I think they went 2-3 or 3-2 in their group. The point is, nobody cares because they didn't make the playoffs in Div X. Well, they turn around in this tournament. They have Crush Soda dead to rights, down 2-0 before they get reverse swept on with the help of some DC issues. Yes, we know. They beat Full Send, though, 3-0. And they basically swept Last Resort. On paper, they swept Last Resort. If that game probably plays out, we might be they might still have a 2-1 lead, but they probably beat Last Resort anyways. Penguin is just a middle-of-the-road Div X team until Saturday, where they look like doggone world beaters. They look like a team that's like, oh, I want to see these guys play Alliance Rogue now. I want to see them play Starburst now. I want to see them play Crush Soda without any disconnection issues, because it seemed like they were better than them. How good is Penguin actually? We'll get to actually find out, kind of, now that they're in the league. The 8 teams that qualified for this league make this one look like it's going to be a lot of fun. And as far as I know, everyone is still playing. I think there might have been some adjustments slightly to the time. I could be completely wrong. I could have asked point blank, but it doesn't really help TOs by asking them questions that you know they're going to announce later anyways. It doesn't oh yes, this gives us more. This helps us out by you asking these questions we were going to answer for everyone anyway. So I'll just wait for that announcement. But you get past all the ugliness. You forget about the DC issues. You forget about the fact that, yes, it doesn't favor one region and it was favor one specific region over the other. When you get past all of that and you look at this tournament series for what it is, it's a damn good product that we got here. And we get 4 more weeks to enjoy it. To all my Splatoon podcaster friends, that's 4 free weeks of programming for us. Enjoy. There's a highlighted message up here somewhere. A few LSLs ago, Leviathan versus Ewefish had to be mercy killed after they tried for 30 minutes to play a single game on stream. 2 low inks in the Splatoon 3 era. I had to host the lobby for teams. They couldn't get into a lobby and they switch hosts and they still couldn't get in lobbies with each other. And so I would just host, and by the time I got in there to host, there's not enough time. So I said, all right, let's find the Splat Zone map in this round. We're playing that, best of 1, winner take all kind of thing. It's frustrating. But when you think about how many games are played in low ink, if it's only happened twice in like 6 Splatoon 3 tournaments over the gazillion games that we play, that's like 0.001% of games that are affected by something like that. But it is still, I don't know. I'm not a tech person, but it seems pretty bad with Splatoon 3 for whatever reason. It's time for the weekly recap. SOS number 104 was won by Chum Bucket, which is a team made up of Terra, Ellis, Waka, and Orion. I wish I could read my own handwriting. Michelin Heroes finished in second place. Schmoothie, a team that I'm getting a jersey at Low Tide City, finished in third. A perfect tournament run for the Chum Bucket team as you look at their roster and you think, of course, they should be playing. Those are EU players, though, right? Whatever happened to that? Sleepy, what about you? Were you on that roster? Did I miss that? And hey, look what happens when Terra was on the roster. There was only 4 players on the roster. What, did you guys cheat or something? Well, congratulations, Sleepy. I didn't pay attention to help desk. Hey, look what happens when Nintendo doesn't put a random maintenance server in the middle of a tournament and you don't got to play Splatoon 2. You get a pretty good tournament here in SOS 104. Hammerhead was won by Assault to Pepper, who I believe has won the last 20 Hammerheads in a row. Mako Bracket was won by Yeehaw! And Lantern Bracket was won by Acropora, which I know I pronounced correctly because the members of Acropora like 2 years ago spelled it out in pictures to me how to pronounce it. I saw some people saying they don't know how to pronounce Acropora. Come on, Acropora. It's so simple. Proving Grounds 10 was won by Bet. Backpacking Ben, which was essentially a nightmare pickup, took second place. And Sonder, who won Proving Grounds 9, ended up taking third in Proving Grounds 10. Bet had CMO, who is playing for them in this tournament, but CMO was not playing for them in the InkTV qualifier that Bet was playing in. CMO of the old In Control team, not the In Control Red Sun, but the old In Control team. I think the last time I saw those guys play was Genesis 7, I want to say. I know they were there. We used the InkTV map pool of only 12 maps. No counter picks. Just shut up and play. Here's some 12 maps. And I think everybody enjoys the 12 smaller map pool thing. At least nobody complained that they didn't like it. So nobody says they don't like it. That means they do like it. That's how TO feedbacking works. So I'm all for smaller map pools, honestly. Especially in a single elimination tournament. Most of you are only going to play 3 of the 12 maps anyways. You're not going to last long enough to complain about playing frequent maps. And if you do, that means you're pretty good. And we actually value your feedback with that. The real story with Proving Grounds 10. As of the Proving Grounds 9, it was Sanctuary pulling off a monster upset. What the hell happened to Heaven's Reflection here? They beat Prelude in round 1 3-1, and then they beat Wipeout Punks 3-2, and then went on to take a game off of Micklin Heroes. Now, it wasn't pure Heaven's Reflection. It was like 2 Heaven Reflection players and then like 2 other subs combined to make a pickup. But are you trying to get banned from Low Ink? Because that is how you get yourself banned from Low Ink. Heaven's Reflection ripping some teams apart in that tournament. Nicely done. Collegiate Cephalopod Association Season number 3, Week 6. Wrapped up this past weekend. This has to be the final week. It says right there, the final week. Some scores to give you right here. Oh, I love the formats of this. University of Central Florida, the Night Sharks. They went 5-0 in Div 1. Penn State went 4-1. California Davis went 5-0, and San Diego went 4-1 in their group. So those are going to be your Div 1 playoff teams. Div 2, San Diego State, the Carne Inxada Fries, and the Florida Gulf Coast teams. They went 4-1 in their groups. On the opposite side, University of Maryland College Park went 4-1, along with UC Berkeley. They went 3-2 in Div 3. UCF University of Texas Austin. They went 5-0. They made it. Whitewater, Wisconsin made it as well. North Carolina and Texas Austin the other. So there's a Nightfall and Daybreak team in Div 3. And we're going to have to awkwardly end this and continue reading without music. It's just a lot to get through here in this college thing. In Div 4, UC Oklahoma, the OU Crimson, they won their group. Purdue, with one of the gazillion teams Purdue pushed out in this one, the Bash team, they went 4-1. Irvine Valley College went 5-0 in Div 4 as well, along with the Storm Cells representing the University of Florida. They went 4-1. Those are Div 4 playoff teams. In Div 5, Coastal Carolina University and the Virginia Commonwealth University, called the Goomies, are going to be making the playoffs, along with Bradley University. Life Could Bradley Dream. Oh, come on. They went 5-0 along with Illinois State University, the Red Beak Splatoon. Hey, that's a team I actually know. They played in Low Ink before. Div 6, the 4 playoff teams here are the Northern Arizona University, the Stevens Institute of Technology. There's no way that's an actual school. West Virginia University and the State University of New York Polytech Institute. That is a full sentence. They make Div 6, and the final Div in Div 7, Rowan University, Farmingdale State College, the Farmingdale Rams. Go Rams! The Kutztown University. Did I just say a slur right there? And Drexel University. Hey, I actually know that school. They went 3-1. Those are your Div 7 playoff teams. I'm assuming the playoffs for the Collegiate Cephalopod Association will take place this week and maybe next week as well. By the way, you can catch a lot of those matches on the Splatoon Journey channel, as well as the twitch.tv/CCA_Splatoon. So a lot of great college Splatoon action that you can catch up there. That was your weekly recap. Sponsored by the Mario movie. Hey, I watched it with my wife on Friday. Enjoyed it a lot. It's not going to win any Oscars anytime soon, except it might be nominated for Best Original Song with the Peaches thing that Bowser was doing there. But it was visually pleasing and entertaining. It was lacking in some scenes. It was like, I kind of wish this lasted a little bit longer. I kind of want to see a director's cut, but you're not watching a Mario movie because of have your mind blown by the story or plot twist or anything like that. You're watching it because it's visually entertaining and it met that bar. So, the Mario movies, the official sponsor of today's episode of the Weekly Recap. What movie? Trash Panda, do you even... Oh. Well, I enjoyed it. Also, once again, credit to Smiley Riley for providing the Collegiate Cephalopod Association information for the weekly recap. All right, let's move Z on down. Little Squidward, number 29. Let me tell you this. There's only like a handful of us competitive Splatoon podcasters, and I think I'm the only one who does weekly. But can you name anybody else that has the range I do? Can you go from talking about Starburst and Crushed Soda in one episode to talking about Octopi and Weef Wush in the same exact episode? I go from the top level down to the very bottom, lowest level that there is in competitive Splatoon. Ain't nobody got the range I do. If only my seating was a little bit better. This Little Squid League is the lowest tournament, right? As far as skill cap is concerned, there's probably one lower, but none of them are better. None are better than Little Squid League, which I assume 88 teams signed up for this one. I'm assuming they had over 100 at one point, probably just the splash tags or Forf didn't wake up, we got to drop kind of thing, cut down that number. But Little Squid League consistently getting those 100+ teams playing in it. Now, I could not watch the stream for Little Squid League live on Saturday because I was commentating on the Splatoon Tourney channel, their broadcast of the InkTV tournament. So every Monday, I go around when I'm writing this script out, and I'm going to, I got I almost said coffee. That's a lie. I don't drink coffee. I got my beverage, probably just water, sat down, and I looked through the Little Squid League Twitch channel to see where the VOD is. And the VOD wasn't there, and I couldn't find it. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. I see they upload things on YouTube, looked at YouTube, that wasn't there. So I thought, okay, I'll just go to Help Desk and ask in Help Desk where the VOD is. And then I was like, wait a minute, that'd be a stupid thing to do because I know how to find answers. So instead of going to Help Desk and asking, I just went to the Little Squid League Discord channel and searched the word stream, to which I was able to find the information I was looking for right there. There was no stream for Little Squid League number 29. Uh-oh. That sucks. And when you stop to think about it, though, there's a pretty good reason why Little Squid League wouldn't have a stream. And I haven't talked to anybody from Little Squid League, and I don't have to I don't have to do much thought, though, but I got a pretty solid guess as to why there wasn't a stream for Little Squid League. Probably because everybody who could commentate it, who could actually stream it, and would watch it are all involved in InkTV that weekend. If Little Squid League was able to even find a streamer and 4 to 6 commentators that could do it, it's not that they're just streaming against InkTV, which is fine. Like, any tournament's allowed to stream at the same time as another tournament. That's perfectly fine. Your viewership might suck, but at least you have a VOD of it out there. But Little Squid League would have been like the 5th org going at that time, because you're competing against InkTV, Splatoon Tourney, IPL, and Dabble Productions all at the same exact time that your tournament is going on. So yeah, that probably is why Little Squid League didn't have a stream for their tournament. And I didn't even realize it until Monday when I was like, all right, well, let's go back and look at it and try to do some research on what happened into this tournament here. So there you go. Another example of why you can't do a league that takes 6 weekends out of the year, and it makes more sense to just have 2 qualifiers and then your league take place in the middle of the week where it doesn't interrupt anything. So there you go. And hey, the tournament still happened though. And I looked at the feedback channel while I was in that Discord server. Nobody left any negative feedback. It was all positive. Thank you, TOs. This was a great event. We love playing a Little Squid League. The only negative one was a counter pick rule and a best of 7, which I don't know what the counter pick rules are for Little Squid League and a best of 7. But yeah, you got to like change it to a little bit to where like you can go back to a mode. Best of 7 is kind of weird when it comes to counter picks, but when I was reading that person's feedback for it, it didn't really make sense what they were complaining about. But regardless, the point being, the only negative thing was just like a rule. It wasn't like, oh, you TOs suck. They were talking about how much they love playing in the tournament, how quick the staff was to respond to issues and things like that. So nicely done, Little Squid League. I know it's got to be frustrating not having a VOD of your own tournament. It sucks for Octopi as well, who ended up winning it. But maybe this might be the closest thing to a Little Squid League 29 VOD that will ever exist. And hey, at least I shaved my neck for this. There's some nice little presentation for you guys there. Let's go down each group because there are 7 groups that played in this one, fading into a gold bracket and down to a silver bracket. And I'll give you guys my match of each group, or at least the match that I found interesting. And we can pull up the, is that it? That's not it. There, that's it. That's the right button. In Group A, I wish I'd wrote this down so I could find these things a little bit quicker. The match I want to talk about is Krill Streak taking on Sub Squared. And shout outs for having this awkward R in your squared so that TOs can have their bots break whenever they fix your name, and it's really more difficult to get you a captain role. Just put down normal letters in your guys' names. Come on. The reason I want to talk about this, though, is because I like Krill Streak. Sorry, not sorry. Sometimes I just talk about things on the podcast that I like talking about, even if it doesn't make sense to talk about them in general. I like the fact that Krill Streak was able to get a win here. They went to a game 3, and it's not like they beat up some scrub team. Sub Squared seemed to be pretty good. They went 2-2 in this bracket. Krill Streak able to get a nice win there. It's good to see Krill Streak play 2 tournaments in a row. They played last Low Ink, and we like that they're coming back. So there you go. Nicely done getting that win there, Krill Streak. One of my favorite teams here on the podcast. In Group B, we're going to take a look right here. Pure Chaos taking White Siege. Pure Chaos got bronze in silver bracket last month. So they got bronze and silver last month. Follow me. It makes sense when you slow it down. And White Siege is a team that went 4-2 and qualified for Gamma bracket of last Low Ink. Delta bracket is where Pure Chaos ended up. Neither team really did accomplished anything on Sunday of Low Ink when they actually played in those brackets. But still, I believe this was basically a play-in game for these teams here in round 4. They seem to be seated right next to each other, which is, I don't know if that's by design or if that just kind of worked out that way. But yeah, because whoever won this game 3 was Pure Chaos, so they get to move on, and White Siege didn't. So that's a match worth pointing out. And I believe we'll talk about both these teams later, unless we're not. In Group C, I want to talk about Ink Strikers as they took on the Refresh, not Smile. That is clearly the word Smile, Popgun. There we go. Ink Strikers, who apparently in that last stream is the EU team, taking on Refresh. And I guess it is kind of worth noting, you can kind of see here what actual game was won by what team. Sometimes you go into game 3 with their tiebreaker kind of works, and most of the time it doesn't, if I'm being honest. But this one actually had something on the line. This was a round 3 match, but basically turned into a play-in game as well. If Refresh wins this one, they're probably in better position to make gold bracket. Refresh has made Delta bracket in low ink 2 months in a row, so they've been a pretty solid, consistent team in these Swiss stages. Ink Strikers, they finished in 3rd place in the last Little Squid League, though, which is why they're the number 1 seed in this group, and why I wanted to mention this game in particular. In Group D, we got to take a look at our old pals, Joe Cephalopod, Joe Starfish, or as JoJo, as those of us who like sanity will say. That is not the match I want to look at. But we want to look at the game that JoJo lost. We actually want to be negative, unfortunately. Squid EST, a team that is confused about their own name, which is why they put a question mark right there. That's unfortunate. Lost game 1 and then won 2 straight. Pulled off it's a reverse sweep. Yeah, it's a best of 3. We got that. It's just a JoJo reference. It could be, now that I think about it. Joe Cephalopod, Joe Starfish is starting to become that the persistence of low ink, or of Little Squid League, if you will. A team that has like gotten 2nd place and then just kind of floats around, and you feel like they're going to get banned before they actually win it. But it becomes a team that when somebody else beats them becomes a quality win that they could put on their resume. So Squid EST, these guys made Top Cut last time they played in Little Squid League. They didn't really do anything once they made Top Cut there. But this is just anybody in Little Squid League, regardless of where you stand, beating Joe Cephalopod, Joe Starfish. This is the team that everyone's going to have their target on, which might be why it's harder for them to get back into this tournament, because they're the team a lot of people are gunning for, I'm assuming. Group E. Now, again, I don't know if this is if this one is seeded like very, very craftily, because we don't seed our Swift craftily at all. It just matters for round 1. But it seemed like everyone that was seeded higher than their opponent mostly won. There's only 4 or 5 technical upsets, I guess, this one being one of them. Non-binary Fuzz, the number 3 seed, beating the number 2 seed Squid Sushi. Non-binary Fuzz has been a team this entire... I feel like they've been around since the beginning of Splatoon 3 at this point, and they constantly get good results, rack up some decent results. Can't really finish off some of these tournaments that they're playing in, but they're constantly moving in the right direction. And that's not the first, this is the 5th time or so I've talked about those guys, because they're always doing something worthwhile I'm talking about. In Group F, we're going to take a look at our old pals Malibu Rising, because they were able to get a 2-1 win over here. Technically a seeding upset. Oh, they're the number 2 seed. Look at, okay, so this is a perfect example. And I've made examples like this before, but why you don't do seeding in Swiss to perfectly craft this out. This is round 2. This is round 2 of Swiss, where your number 1 and number 2 seeds are playing. That's so stupid that you could do that. If in any other format, these 2 teams would not play each other until much later in the tournament. But because Battlefy doesn't care about seeds and just looks at records, oh, here's the next 2 teams that are 1-1. Let's put them together. Oh, these are the 2 teams that should be battling for first place, and you're going to give one of them a loss after round 2? Okay, let's see how that works. Well, Malibu Rising gets the better end of Glitter Gel Pens, and this is a strong win for Malibu Rising. They've been talking about on Twitter how they feel like they've been improving a lot. They've been grinding. I think most of their players are going to be playing at Low Tide City. This is a nice win for them. In Group G, the one match I want to talk about here is kind of an awkward one. I believe it is this round 1 match here of Cybernetics, to capitalize the last X over there, got a win over Scarlet Inc. Now, Scarlet Inc. is a team that got 3rd place. I think they ended up getting 3rd place in this overall group. They made silver bracket before, and we're going to talk about them in gold coming up, because they went really well in this tournament. But they lost to the Cybernetics team 2-1, who lost 3 straight matches and ended up dropping out of the tournament. So, this is the most bizarre, head-scratching upset of the tournament that I could find. And it sucks for Scarlet Ink because this killed their opponent win percentage. Thank you for the follow, Megan Pocky. Can you move my head out of the way? I'm trying to click on something. Thank you. Yeah, they ended up going 1-3 and just dropped out of the tournament. So that kills Scarlet Ink's opponent win percentage. But I believe the top 6 from each group moves on the gold bracket, and the bottom 6 doesn't. It moves on to silver. So it worked out. It didn't really kill them much. So basically, if you go 3-1, you're going to make gold bracket. That's nice. That's a nice little thing right there. But still, an awkward loss and a nice win for whoever the Cybernetics team is. Looking at gold. JK, that is silver. Silver bracket. Oh, silver bracket wouldn't be streamed anyways. So we're not really missing anything here. But just look at the size of this thing. Where silver bracket was like this size. And now it's just like 100 gazillion teams. The 4 teams, there's not really a whole lot interesting that I can talk about until you get to just the final 4 teams that are coming up through here. So we'll talk about the teams that finished in the final 4. First off, the 4th place team, Seasick. If you're wondering who Seasick is, if you remember the Splatoon tournament in the beginning of January, that was a Nintendo tournament. That was one of the qualifiers for the Boston tournament. A team that is a traditional Little Squid League team qualified for top 16 over teams like Heller, the Night Sharks, and Octopi. I looked that up this morning. Octopi played in that tournament. They didn't qualify for the top 16. You know who did qualify for the top 16 over a Div X team? Seasick. Seasick is always going to be able to say that they played, I believe they played the Crush Soda team in round 1, bless their heart. But they were a top 16 team. Nicely done, Seasick. They take 4th place here in this Little Squid League tournament. The Arctic Orcas, this is just their 2nd tournament ever. They played in a Little Squid League last month, and this is their 2nd time ever playing in a tournament, and they get 3rd place in silver bracket. So I don't have anything else to say to them. The last time they played in Little Squid League, they didn't even make silver bracket. I couldn't find them in the silver bracket. I didn't care enough to see what group they played in. So I'll talk about you now, Arctic. Is that Arctic? It is. No, it's Antic. Antic Orcas. What the hell does that mean? Anyways, the 2 teams that finished the 2nd place, Squid Sushi. I talked about Squid Sushi briefly as they were the team that lost to Non-Binary Fuss 2-1 back in the group stage, which is why they ended up here in silver bracket in general. Squid Sushi is a Gamma bracket team. The last time they played in Little Low Ink, they made Gamma bracket. Didn't really accomplish anything there, but now they finished in 2nd place. I believe Squid Sushi might have been the team that left the feedback about the counter picks thing, because there wasn't any counter picks in the other grand final set. Spoiler alert. But the team that won this bracket, Fanta Manta. And there's always something with a champion of a silver bracket in Little Squid League where it's like, why did these guys end up here? Because Phantom Manta made gold bracket last time they played Little Squid League, and they played the Ink Strikers in round 1, losing to them, I believe, 2-1. Got knocked out in round 1. And again, Ink Strikers went on to take 3rd place in that tournament. So tough break for them, but they fall down here, the silver bracket. Again, if you're not supposed to be in this kind of bracket, what you do, you rip it apart and make people realize that. But it wasn't an easy run for them by any stretch of imagination. Game 3, Game 4, Game 5, Game 6 actually taken here in this best of 7. So they took a L here and there, but mostly took care of business in this bracket that they probably should have won, which they did. So nicely done there. You suffer White Siege, got into silver, but players had to go, and there are no subs left, and one of our players nearly made it back in time, but 10 minutes had passed. So you're DQ'd versus Arrows of Water. What, right here? And this one? Is that where you're saying that? Did an Arrow of Water team even play in this one? I'm not quite sure. Regardless, fair enough. That's that's a good thing that I don't have to pay attention to in other low-level tournaments, but understand as an issue is having to deal with getting subs and things like that. You can't find that information just by looking at Battlefy, and since there's no stream, there's no like commentator being like, hey, here's the situation with this team. So this is a gold bracket. Again, there's no VOD of this out here, but you can kind of just look at the scores here and get a sense of what pretty much happened here. Octopi played like a team that didn't want to play in Little Squid League ever again. My goodness. Before we get to Octopi, though, let's talk about some of these other top 4 teams. Who are the Sundrops? I don't know. I know Sundrops is the team. I know they played in the last Little Squid League. I know they checked into the last Little Squid League. I don't know if they actually played or not because I couldn't find them, so I didn't really know much information about Sundrops. So the next time they do really good, and that's probably one of these teams I've talked about at some point in a Low Ink recap, but I talk about so many teams I don't have them all memorized. So we'll keep an eye on Sundrop in the future at some point. They got 4th place here. Seems like they just ran out of gas after surviving a Game 3 against a tough falling Squids team that has played in a lot of these Lowings as well. Oh, looks like Gambler's Fallacy. What the heck does that mean? Took them to a Game 3 as well. The team that did win 3rd place is Scarlet Ink. And again, Scarlet Ink is a team that was in Silver Bracket last tournament. They got eliminated in round 1 of Silver Bracket in the last Little Squid League. This time around, a huge glow up. After losing to Pure Chaos 1-2 in the last Little Squid League, they go all the way to 3rd place. The only team that beat them was Octopi, which is and Scarlet Ink's the only team to take a game off of Octopi. By the way, shout outs to Squid EST. It talked about how they beat JoJo, being one of the more peskier teams that Scarlet Ink had to face because they beat JoJo as well. And speaking of JoJo, there they are again. This is the 2nd straight tournament. They got 5th place. I believe they got 2nd 3 tournaments ago. This is just the team that everyone's gunning for. I bet you there's more pressure on JoJo in this tournament. If they played a Little Squid League or they played in Low Ink, I bet you they would do way better in Low Ink than this tournament because there's not going to be as much pressure on them here. When you've made it to grand finals, it's win the tournament or bust. And that's the situation. Man, they had a little tough run to even get to Scarlet Ink here. Malibu and Arrowhead giving them a lot of fits and troubles there. Still good for Scarlet Ink, getting 3rd place after getting Silver Bracket. The team that finished in 2nd place, Blue Velvet. I don't know much about Blue Velvet, but again, the tape tells the story here. Or no tape. The brackets tells the story. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 3-0. Blue Velvet looks like the real monster of this tournament. They look like a really strong team, and then they play Octopi and get 4-0'd. So Blue Velvet could be the Octopi next month. Because who is Octopi? They're the team that finished 2nd place last time. A team that probably had more pressure on it than anybody since they just won the silver medal and really did not care. It's very rare in low-level tournaments does a team finish 2nd place 1 month and then come back the next one and win it. Even more rare is seeing somebody absolutely dominate a Little Squid League. And a true team like this, Octopi, Glitter Gel Pins, 2-0. Eternal Eclipsia, 2-0. Ink Strikers, the team finished 3rd place last month, 2-0. Scarlet Ink, oh, you took a game off of us, fine. And Blue Velvet, they said, don't even bother pulling up the counter pick rules. We're not going to need them. We're not going to need them. You just pick every single map you want us to beat you on. My goodness, Octopi. Very nicely done. The Pie character, always frustrating as a TO, but you got to give these guys their due. And it sucks. It sucks that they don't get that stream moment where you get to hear the commentator say whatever. So we'll give a little special shout out to Octopi here. And Octopi has won Little Squid League number 29. Congratulations to them. Win Low Ink. Here's an interesting trivia stat. Has anyone ever won Little Squid League and Low Ink? Like all time, has that ever happened? No? I don't know the answer to that. I feel like I should know the answer to that. Oh, an hour and 15 minutes. Jeez. I spent less time writing this. But that's going to do it for today's episode of the Popcast. We can't be talking about this all day long. Let's find somebody to raid. If you'd like to be a part of the Popcast in any way, feel free to reach out my socials below. Twitter, Mr_Popgun. Discord, Popgun, hashtag 5882. YouTube at 25 Popgun. Twitch at Popgun 25. Anchor.fm/Popgun. TikTok at Mr_Popgun. Low Ink preview episode of the podcast will be Friday. Time to be determined. It's going to be a little bit earlier than usual, but not like the 12 o'clock time. It'll be somewhere in the smidgen region in between. We'll be going over why the Low Ink skill cap is perfect where it is. In the meantime, get vaccinated, stay safe, wear a mask when applicable, and enjoy Jazzo Corn. See you guys Friday. Mouse move.